Hello, and welcome to another edition of TJ Plays with some AI stuff. In this edition, I want to do a little bit more exploring around the Figma console MCP, and I want to address a couple of feedback items that I got in some of the videos where people feel like this may not be worthy of enterprise level design systems. And I just wanted to mention that that's mainly the type of design systems that we work on, and that was mainly the reason for this to be created. So I think you just need to think more creatively about how it can be used. So I just wanted to use this time to show some examples of how this tool can be used for an enterprise level design system. So I created this. This is just a page where I dragged a bunch of components onto. So just a variety of different components in here. For the sake of keeping this demo short, because sometimes these processing tools take a little bit longer in the chat. So I'm going to try to isolate it down to this one page so I can keep this video short. So what I'm going to say is, and also wanted to mention I'm using anti-gravity in this because I wanted to make sure I was using tools that are typically more enterprise approved. Then anti-gravity is Gemini, and I know a lot of people out there use it in enterprise level organizations. So I'm going to say, can you use the Figma console MCP to find any detached components on the test generations page in the current Figma project? So Figma console MCP is connected, and what it'll do is it'll navigate to that project, the one that I have open, and then so this is it doing its thinking thing, and this is the project that I have open here. So it should just be able to find that, detecting Figma status, verifying Figma status. This is kind of like the setup stuff, just to make sure that any other inquiries or prompts that come after this, everything should be set up and ready to go. So it's just doing all this little preliminary work. All right, so now it's got its thing and checking. Okay, I love how it does this too, how it adds this little checklist. I'm liking anti-gravity. So, but it's going to be hard to get me away from Claude Code because I feel like I'm just so ingrained in Claude Code right now. So this process could be like, I'm just asking it to find detached components. It is a very typical thing that happens throughout larger projects. So what you would normally do is run this on the entire project. So like doing an audit on all of the components might take a little bit longer, but it will return back to you all of those detached components. And then you could say something like find me all of the detached components and then the ones they will likely attach to at one point and then reattach them. That's like an automated task that you can do throughout the whole Figma project. And that's kind of enterprisey, I think. Other things that you could do is I like to use it to do an audit of descriptions for components. So I like to say, review all of the components in the component library and show me the ones that are lacking descriptions, or maybe have like incomplete descriptions or something like that. And then it'll give me those. And then I could say, use the Design Systems Assistant MCP to find out what the best practices are for descriptions for those specific components that you found that were lacking descriptions. So just some fun stuff that you could do with it there. All right, so it's going through. It found, I know which ones are detached because I detached them. So here it goes. It's thinking and thinking and thinking. All right, so here we go. Progress updates. I've analyzed the test generations page. Broken components, there was 0. Potentially detached instances, frames, found 2 frames that share names and existing components, suggest that they may have been detached. So badge and badge number. Let's go see. Is it this one? Yes. that one has been detached. And which one is the other one? Badge number. Not that one, not that one, not that one, but that one. Look at it. And there it is. It found it. Wonderful. Okay, so that was a success. So we'll say, wonderful, thank you. Also within that same page, I noticed there's some mislabeled layers in there. Can you please rename those layers to something a little bit more semantic or meaningful? So sometimes your files get a little wild with the layering, with the layer names, and sometimes it's just because either you're working fast or it's one of those things that just don't take priority. So it's nice to be able to find and automate the updating of the layer names. So I intentionally added this group layer name and this frame layer name in here. So it's scanning that. It's scanning for these frame and group. I didn't tell it to do that. It just did. And it looks like it already found it. And now it's trying to figure out what it should rename it to. So inspecting frame 734, content and creating implementation plan. There it is right there. And updating and renaming. Let's see. All right. So it wants to rename frame ID 1 to activity card, and then 734 to placeholder container, which is what it was before. Actually, it was just placeholder. And it wants to rename group 4676, so to date stamp. Okay. That's nice. And then what else? Okay, it looks like it missed two other ones, which we could take another round trip and see if we can get it to update it. But this was the placeholder, and that's the one that it changed, and it changed it correctly. It looked at the design and said, I'm going to change it to this. And then this is the date stamp, and it was from a date picker. So that's pretty great. And I suppose if I wanted it to, I could say do another pass on it just to ensure that you've caught them all and make sure that those are updated too. I don't know why I didn't catch them in that first pass, but I'm sure I can ask it to be a little bit more detailed and analytical on the next pass. Anyway, these are just like two like little things that you could do that really make a huge difference and are very tedious things to do from a manual process. So I just wanted to throw these little things out there and use your imagination, because like you can get really creative with the amount of flexibility and stuff that this MCP can do. I wrote down a couple of things like bulk component property updates. So if you needed to do like bulk property updates on all of your components, if you wanted to review all of the properties of your existing components, and then you can invoke the Design Systems Assistant MCP and then compare what you already have in there to best practices that are returned from the Design Systems MCP, and then it'll say, yeah, this is great. It lines up great, and maybe not, maybe it won't. You can auto-generate component variants, so you can create one button and then just say, generate all the variants for me. You can do design linting, QA audit. You can do accessibility testing on like background. Like if you have tokens that have background colors and foreground colors and then content colors, you can mix and match an asset to see different scenarios and groupings and whether or not it passes a certain certification level. Batch layer renaming, we just did that. Component documentation generator, that was what I was talking about earlier. Detached to instant find and repair, that's a fun one. Icon library organizer, responsive variant generator, style to variable migration. So if you're using Figma styles and all of a sudden you just want to migrate all of those into variables tables, you could do that. Visual regression setup. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff you could do with it. Anyway, I hope this helps somebody. And yeah, please reach out if you have any questions about anything. Happy to help.